Wetland Agency. Right.
We just need a
Got it.
little head start, but you're good.
Before I was so rudely interrupted. The Inland Wetland Agency meeting Tuesday, June 22nd, 6:00 p.m. by Zoom. I call it to order, and shall we have roll call?
Or Mr. John Mailing,
Here.
Stephen Clockey,
Here.
Jennifer Balliet,
Here.
and John Levin.
Present.
I do believe
Okay.
that is it for tonight.
All right. Receipt and discussion. We have S21 572 20 Granite Drive, Luzardo.
I
Can you
think
break-
actually the
Do we not?
agenda, we do. The agenda was updated. Let me share my screen, maybe. Hold on a minute. Let me open up the tonight's agenda. We start off, I think, with the enforcement order for the show cause hearing for the enforcement order that I issued
On Princess Pine?
on Princess Pine. Yes.
Okay, so we're not doing granite, or we are doing it later?
We are. I just thought we should do the enforcement order first.
Okay.
Because otherwise it would get even more confusing than it already is.
All right. Do we need a motion to change it, or can we just do it?
No, I believe the agenda has been posted for longer than, well, 48 hours at this point. So you should be all set. Did I
Okay.
send? I may have sent you the wrong one, did I?
Well,
yes.
mine says receipt and
Sorry.
discuss.
Sorry about that. I must not have sent you an updated.
No, I don't.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, so
So, Brian is
granite,
showing the agenda as it is posted.
all right. But basically, the items on my agenda are the same as the ones here. They're just in a different order.
Correct. I think the one that you have, I forgot to include the enforcement actions at all.
Oh.
But
okay.
other than that, I don't believe there are any changes.
Okay.
What I sent you.
So
I will,
it's V21 1025. That's what I got to note down because I don't have it. V21 1025. So next on the agenda is item V21 1025, 40 Princess Pine Road, show cause hearing. Showing the opportunity to show cause why the cease and restore order should
Is
be.
Jim Tate
Yes.
here?
yes, actually, Brian, he is one of the people that is an attendee, Mr. Jim Tate. Can you move him over?
Yep, he should be coming over now. Wait. Hopefully. There we go.
Okay.
All right, so it's a question as to whether we uphold.
Everybody good? Yeah, okay, good. All right,
So you're saying, Commissioner?
Yeah,
Mailing?
do we uphold? Do we modify? Or do we waive or decide against this cease and restore order? Is that our task?
Correct. And so
All right.
I'll just go over the way that a show cause hearing works real quickly,
Good.
and then we will get going. So a show cause hearing is held within 10 days of the issuance of an order. State statute requires that whenever an order is issued, that the agency hold a show cause hearing to allow the respondent or the receiver of the order to show cause and make an appearance to provide any testimony as far as other information that the agency may use to determine whether to uphold or modify, or to withdraw a enforcement order that has been issued by staff. And so I will just explain why I issued the order, and then Ms. Kelly and her representative, Mr. Tate, are welcome to add any information that they may wish. And then once that is finished, the agency has to make a decision within 10 days at the close of the hearing, but you don't generally meet within 10 days. So you usually do it the same night and make that decision to either uphold, to modify, or withdraw the order.
Thank you.
So let me just open some things. So originally I had issued a notice of violation on June 8th to the owner of 40 Princess Pine Road. On June 8th, you also had your last meeting, and there was a general consensus among the agency members and their staff that a order should be issued. The order would give the respondent an opportunity to give additional information, which they'd kind of started to do at the last meeting. So this provides them an opportunity to do that tonight. Let's see. I need to work on sharing my screen. So the order that I issued, it cites the clearing of trees, the general removal of vegetation, and the deposition of wood chips adjacent to a wetland and watercourse. Specifically, it states that 16 trees, as well as understory and ground vegetation, were removed across the eastern rear of the property, and that the vegetation removal occurred up to the wetland limit line, and that most of the vegetation removal occurred within the closest 20 feet of the wetland, and that the subsequent deposition of wood chips occurred in the same area. It has 2 directives to submit a corrective action application on or before what the order has in it. It's a date in, I think it's the 29th of June, and then to implement any conditions of a subsequent corrective action application permit to the satisfaction of the agency. I will note that also on your agenda is the receipt of a corrective action application. On June 18th, I also received a corrective action application from Ms. Kelly and Mr. Tate as required by the notice of violation. So you got this item on the agenda multiple times, or this property, I should say.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is the site plan that appears in the commission's database the latest one?
The so on the website,
Yes.
there is a yes, at the very top of the page there is the two new applications for receipt, and the one under 40 Princess Pine is for the corrective action.
Okay, thank you.
Are we ready?
Yeah, I'm trying to, well, let me show my PDFs. Hmm.
I just have to make some clarifications on for the record.
Okay, let me just do my, let me just show why I issued the violation
Oh,
and
sure.
my numbers,
Mhm.
and then I'll give you the.
No
Pepper doesn't come in here.
Okay, so do it this way. Sorry for the strange way of showing things. So let me start with, this is the property at 40 Princess Pine. There is a wetland and water course in the rear of this property and on the adjacent property. The property line is 20 feet closer to the west than is shown. So the property line is approximately in this area here and lines up with this large oak tree, which was removed at some point by someone. And then these are the approximate location of the other trees that, as far as we can tell, have been removed. And that's based on looking at this 2019 aerial photo. It's an aerial photo from April 2019 in comparison to the site observations that we made when we went out to the property in May of 2021. We count 16 total trees that were removed. Most of them, as the property owner has previously stated, are evergreen trees. There are kind of a row of them in this general location. And then 2 of them that I count were large oak trees.
Alexis,
Okay.
can you sketch out where the wood chips were spread?
Sure,
Right.
the wood chips, I will show photographs from May. That would probably be easiest, but they are generally in this area here. As if you follow my mouse. So generally
Yep.
under the center, the evergreen trees in the center of the rear yard,
Right.
and to the south of that. So this is this was actually submitted as part of the pool application that shows the approximate location of the removed trees. It does not count the 2 oak trees that are approximately on this, one is on this property line and one is approximately here.
Right.
So
Okay.
this is a PDF of, again, the 2019 aerial photo from April, showing the house, the wetland, the water course. These are the trees that were removed. And the numbers that I have here are the distance from the wetland limit line to the area where the understory changes. In the areas closest to the house, you can see kind of a general green color that would be the lawn area. And then between my measurements to the wetland is a non-green other than the tops of the evergreen. And it's this area that appears from aerial photographs to be a non-lawn area, at least in April 2019. And so that area ranged in a depth from about 25.5 feet at a minimum in the northern most portion of the property, down to a width of closer to 50 feet in the southern area of the property. And
Okay, I think we got it. Let's move
I'm
on.
not-
Mr. Taylor,
I'm
if you
not
could give us a second and let Ms.
quite
Carcetti
done.
finish, that'd be great.
Sure.
If we could make some clarifications after
Yes.
We
that.
will, Susan, we will. Steve, Mr. Clock would like us to wait for the conclusion.
I just also wanted to show a 2015 declaratory ruling that was applied for by the previous owners. They had sought to remove some trees in the house and to increase the backyard. They did get a sign off to do some tree removal. They were allowed to remove 4 trees in the backyard.
Oh, well, here we are. Okay.
So this was before the wetlands were delineated. So again, this is the approximate water course is shown over here. The property line, again, is still off by about 20 feet. So the property line is approximately here. Sorry. And then the wetland area I had approximated just by field conditions. The green is the tree line. The tree line is not perfect, but it is a pretty close representation from photogrammetric data. So wherever there is heavy tree cover or non-lawn is the stippled green, whereas the cleared areas in lawn are shown here. They also removed trees in the front. The area that they were allowed to remove the 4 trees, and then within this area, as my notes say, area may be cleared of undergrowth. This area does not extend as far out as the current condition, though. The current condition is further east, closer to where my cursor is. So this shows the condition prior to 2015 and then post 2015, where my staff and I did go out to confirm that only the 4 trees were removed and that the area of lawn was no greater than what was approved. And so at the most in 2015, the distance from the back of the house to this limit of underbrush removal was 55 feet in the center. And then it was approximately 10 feet from the rear of the garage. And then lastly, I just wanted to show the aerial or the photos again. Let's see. And so these were photographs taken in May 2021 after the original application had been received, and I and my staff went out to the property. This is looking kind of from the rear yard, looking south to the side property line, and this is the rear property line approximately here. This is a wetland flag here. So orange guy, and then this is a wetland flag here. You had asked about the wood chip area, and this is part of the area that is now wood chipped. This is where some of the trees had been previously. This area to the left of the screen obviously was lawn and continues to be. This is the large oak tree that was removed at some point after 2015. It is right on the property corner. This is the corner property stake. This happens to be Mr. Thiel. He's standing in the wetland. And then on the other side of him is the wood chips and more of the remaining tree stumps. And then more of the wood chipped condition. And then this is standing in the same location as the previous photo, but looking north. Again, the rear property line would be on the right, and then the house and the garage is on the left. And more of the character of the wood chips. this is in the center of the lot. The wetland watercourse is in the top of the photo, and just showing some of the material that was, the trees that were removed and the character of the remaining understory. And this is looking from the northern property line south. So the wetland is off to the left. And actually there's one wetland flag there, another one right there, and the house to the right. So all of the activities that that were described in the order were regulated activities. And that's pretty much my presentation. Mr. Tate.
You're on, Mr. Tate.
I think you're muted though. You're talking, but we can't hear you.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Alexis, thank you. And I think I think we have to set the record straight a little bit. There's some errors there that we need to adjust. But in general, the disturbance areas, I think are accurate. We won't argue with that. There were, but first of all, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that my owner took ownership of this property last year. So there was obviously some activity that occurred on this property prior, the 2015 documentation. We have no knowledge of what happened prior to last year. I mean, 2020. We have no knowledge of what happened. And so there are stumps that are out there. There are actually two that we have identified directly that were taken down by the neighbor. Now, the biggest concern I would have had was the two oak trees. Now, those two oak trees who shade the wetlands, and they're the closest, they're on the property corner, they're in the wetlands. They were not removed by my owner, by my client. They were removed by the neighbor. And so they are not part of this violation, or should not be, and that record should be clarified. Now, how do I know that? I know I was not on site last year when things happened. I wish I was. Things would not have been to this level, but hey, we're here now. Those two oak trees, 32, 36 inches, they were in a regulated area. They're not my owners. They were on my owner's property, my client's property. They were not removed by my owner. Should not be part of this show cause violation.
One thing
That's-
on those, I know that they were taken down by them because they were taken down in between my prior owners moving out and me closing. They took them down very quick. They told me they knew where the property line was. They were advised by my arborist that they shouldn't take them down, that they were in where they shouldn't touch, and they did it anyway. I had no clue that it was my property because the flags were about 10 feet over to the east at that time, because he didn't know where the exact edge was. And so I had to go by the flags, and clearly these two trees, about 30-inch diameter each, they claimed they knew where it was, and they were seen. I mean, I saw them, my daughter saw them, and my arborist saw them taken down. So in fact,
So-
I wouldn't mind having some help in terms of them. I mean,
Well,
I can't put back.
Susan, let's
huge
get the record
trees,
straight
but-
first. Susan, let's get the record straight first, and then we can move forward, because the commission's got some time constraints here. So the second thing, this is John Scott, who is giving us this information, who is a respected tree removal service. He would know that he shouldn't be removing trees within regulated areas. So anyway, he has measured the closest tree, and we have mainly these trees 25 to 35 feet from the flagged wetlands. So there were two stumps that were in a fence. There were also another two stumps that clearly were identified that were not removed by my property owner. Now, I'm not arguing. We never argued from day one. I mean, how many last month when we were here? We are not telling you that we did not remove spruce and pine trees within a regulated area. We did that, and we removed 12, not 16. So if that makes a difference, I don't think it does. we removed 12 spruce trees that were larger than 10 or white pine or spruce trees for a reason. We did it for a reason. We did it because we felt they were a hazard. The insurance company feels they're a hazard. I feel they were a hazard, and I'm a professional. I'm a landscape architect. I deal with this every day. I feel they were a hazard. Now, we chipped these spruce and pine trees. Now, you got to remember, spruce and pine trees have crowns way up in the air. So if there's some argument about vegetation affecting the wetlands, it's not an issue. That is not an issue. I can't tell you how that ridiculous that argument would be, because the reality is the oak trees being deciduous would have, but these conifers being so high would have allowed the same light in regardless of what the condition was. So now let's talk about that a minute. Now, chips. Okay, chips. You know, chips are a natural byproduct of our thing. Yes, they have suffocated air, small ground cover vegetation next to the wetlands at the time you saw the picture. Yes. And is that a problem? No, it's not a problem. Why? Because most of the invasive material that was removed there by John Scott, he claims was poison ivy. Okay. You know, poison ivy is a valuable native material. It's good. I mean, it's a good food source, but it was removed for obvious reasons, safety reasons. However, the chips, is the vegetation coming back? Go out there now. The line is back up to the lawn area. It's very aggressive. We live in a Connecticut jungle. I'm telling you right now, no loss, any effect on buffering wetlands. So it's just this is crazy in terms of vegetation removal and the effects. However, we are not denying, very open about this, that these spruce trees should have been removed under your authorization, your approval. It was not done. So we need to move on. We need to do whatever to make it right. And we are willing to do that from day one. I mentioned that. We will do what's right. What's right? My professional opinion is we give you a new planting plan that gives you some enhancement planting that improves the habitat that will grow in this new environment. It will be better than before. And we're good to go. You can't hold us responsible for a neighbor's activity. So anyway, we provided that. We show about 34, 35 plants in there in the enhancement planting. It's a variety, and we'll do that. And we also prepared because we want to put a pool in the back. We did not, this person bought this property with the idea that she would have use of her backyard. It was lawn. It was lawn back to this 10 feet within the wetland flagging. Here we are. So I'm not arguing that Alexis she's not wrong. She's right in many respects. The record is not quite accurate. And so I just need to make sure the commission understands that accuracy. And that's where we're at.
Okay, we are, I think, informed and enlightened.
Good.
We're willing to accept your history of the property. But as I'm sure you recognize, it does not change the regulations which say that these things have to be approved in advance. And we would not have approved the spreading of wood chips around on the basis that we don't agree with your perspective on the effect of spreading shredded material in a upland review area. That's all, okay? The regulations are what they are. We're making no value judgments here. We are working off of the rules that we're obligated to follow by the state of Connecticut and by the town, by the city of Norwalk. Now, we have materials from you that were timely supplied as in support of the process of moving this application forward, one of which was the revised site plan, which was required in the original letter, the notice of violation and the cease and restore order. And you did supply that. And I would be obliged if we could spend a minute on that.
Sure,
If
of
we can-
course.
If we can
Of
get it
course.
on screen. Is-
Uh,
Mr.
what-
Mailing, so
Yes.
it's on the agenda, but for later. So this would just be the show cause hearing
Oh,
for the violation, not the remedy. So the 40 Princess Pine is on your agenda 3 times. First for the show cause hearing for the order, second for the receipt of a corrective action application, and then third for the pending pool application.
understood. My question about the site plan is not about the restorative aspects of it, but about the plan itself. For
Yes.
there's been talk about a retaining wall, and I could not determine from the site plan where the retaining wall or walls was. And that's what I wanted to look at
Yes.
and have you point out.
Yes, sir, you need to
Point
see
out.
the site plan. You need to see the site plan. Alex, can you show the site, the latest site plan that we did for them? Can you pop that up? Very clear on the site plan.
Chairman, are you seeking to address a question that is not part of this particular agenda item? I believe for the show cause hearing, the presence or absence of a wall in the site plan is not relevant, I believe. If I'm wrong, someone should please correct me.
Well, I'm not sure whether you're right or wrong, but I can certainly yield a question until later.
I think the agenda item that we're seeking to address right now is simply the show cause hearing only, and the commission's determination to, as we've already said, uphold, modify, or waive the existing restorative order. Am I getting this? Am I getting that right, Alexis?
That is correct.
Okay.
But I can show you a site plan if that helps you get your bearings as far as the location of the trees.
Let's do that. I think that's important. The site plan, I think the proposed
I
site
was
plan is
talking to
important.
Commissioner Mailing.
I'm sorry.
I can yield on it if there's any confusion or disagreement as to the timing. I can look at the site plan another time and find out what I need to know. And we can confine ourselves at this point to upholding, modifying, or withdrawing the order. I guess at this point, it is appropriate to ask whether commissions have any comments or questions regarding your presentation and the detail in the order, or do we decide?
Commissioner Clocky has his hand raised.
I don't have the order in front of me, but basically we're talking about at this point just discrepancies between what is viewed by the agency versus what's being conveyed by the property owner and their representatives. So as far as I'm concerned, one area of conflict is the number of trees removed. Agency says 16, client says, or homeowner says 12. It's not a big red flag to me. I think it's, in the neighborhood. The question about the oak trees, I fully believe what you guys are saying, that you didn't take them down. Alexis, just so we're clear though, how does this sort of thing work? So just because someone else may have taken it down, it still doesn't change the fact that the trees were on this homeowner's property. And so technically they should still be included.
Right.
Even though we may or
Right.
may not act on them, or they may or not move the needle one way or another, technically it is the responsibility of the property owner. Is that correct?
Correct. So I don't have a day-to-day accounting of what happens on each and every property in Norwalk. If I did, my job would be really easy. And so I have these snapshots of information through time. I have the 2015 when that the 4 trees were allowed to be removed in the back, and I was out at the property and made notes. I have aerial photographs like the April 2019 aerial photograph that showed the condition of the property in April 2019. I don't have exactly what the property looked like 2 days before Miss Kelly purchased it, and I don't know what it looked like 2 days afterwards. We have had wetland violations where neighbors have caused violations on other properties. Your remedy has always been to file for a corrective action application and then, work out a mitigation plan. And what we have always done, and sometimes it's been very clear that someone's on somebody else's property. When it is very clear, that, I observe a neighbor doing work, a notice of violation goes out to both parties. It goes out to the property owner, and at the end of the day, the property owner is responsible for their property. And then if it was clear that another neighbor had done it, it would go out to them as well. In this case, the trees, I did not see them cut down. I have no idea who cut them down. All I know is that they are on the property at 40 Princess Pine. And so that's why I include them and come to the count of 16, because they are there in all the aerial photos that I have. I do recognize that they're not there in the photos that Mr. Tate sent me, but that he sent me those. I mean, he took those sometime after Miss Kelly bought the property. So I just don't know, but I do know that they're on the property, and that's why I include them. And I do agree that the loss of those 2 trees has the most negative impact on the wetlands. The other area of disagreement that I hear is the extent of lawn. I don't see, again, going from the information that I have available, it appears that the lawn was at let's see, the narrowest the buffer was between the wetland and the lawn was about 25 feet. And so it is now less than that, is what I'm hearing the respondents say. So I think the width of that buffer is a discrepancy as well. And that goes back to this aerial photo again from April 2019. And I understand that this is before Miss Kelly purchased it. I do understand that. I'm just trying to, I have to somehow figure out how to capture all the regulated activities that have occurred since the last time I have clear information regarding the pre-existing conditions.
Okay, so I think we're, oh, sorry. I think everybody's on the same page. I don't think anything we've discussed thus far is going to push me to move to modify the cease and restore order. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a motion for V21-1025 to uphold the order as written. And then, 2 agenda items from now, we can figure out how to get it squared away.
I will second that. Is there discussion of the motion itself amongst commissioners?
Just as part of this hearing, I would like to ask Mr. Tate if there is any material item within either the violation or cease and restore order that you believe is inaccurate or you have a severe issue with.
Over and above what he's already described.
As far as I can tell, there was nothing that he described that would fit into the category of a material as a material issue. As far as I can tell, if I'm wrong, please correct me.
No, there are 2 things that are critical here that may affect your decision. I mean, I think the 2 oak trees were not my client's responsibility whatsoever. Didn't even know where the property was at that time. The extent of the lawn was far greater than what's shown on this mapping that you saw from the aerial. The extent of lawn went down the slope. It was a much larger area of lawn in the backyard. And that has not changed, but besides that, like I said, 12 trees were removed and chips were spread within 25. Well, I measured 10 feet within the wetland line, not in the wetlands, within 10 feet of that wetland boundary. Okay. Is that the change of what Alexis has saying? It's just not accurate. I mean, I'm giving you the accurate information that I observed. And that's it. And that's the condition.
Okay, so as far as I can tell, quite frankly, whoever was responsible for removing the trees is actually is not relevant for the purposes of determining whether there's a violation and issuing a cease and restore order. You know.
Okay.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Mr. Tate.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on the motion on the floor? Then let's take a vote. All in favor of Commissioner's motion to uphold the order, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. The order is upheld. And as we are learning how to treat this in a linear fashion, that would seem to be number one. And then we will move on to number 2 and number 3 as time dictates. How about that, Alexis?
That's good. All right, so next on your
Agenda,
is,
Bullen Road, or are we back up to Granite?
no, sorry, I'm trying to share way too many things open. Is the receipt and discussion, and you're back to 20 Granite Drive in the Losardos. And then the next item for receipt and discussion after that will be 40 Princess Pine corrective action application.
Okay. That would be number 2 in our linear progression. Got it. Okay, so S21 572 20 Granite Drive. We have received this, I guess, but I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay, let me share
I remember
screen.
the original.
Okay, so this is also a corrective action application. You might recall that some time ago. So again, 20 Granite Drive, which is at the bottom of the screen, wetland in the front, house in the middle of the property, and then wetland and water course system in the rear of the property. The homeowners did some regulated activities that without benefit of a permit, and they successfully came up with a corrective action application. Application was approved. They followed all of the conditions of the permit and restored the front wetland as well as the rear wetland, and established a 20-foot wide buffer to the rear wetland. We received a more recent complaint that the property owner at 20 Granite was doing some work in the rear wetland again. They did an inspection and determined that they were again in violation of the wetland regulations. They were issued an order. They were directed to submit a corrective action application, and they have done that, and that's what is before you tonight. So this was the previously approved plan. Again, a boulder marker was required. It's drawn at 20 feet, but your conditions required it to be 25 feet from the wetland. The wetland is this green line with the W. It comes right to the corner property line. And then additionally in the front wetland, it was restored into kind of this basin area with an inlet under a culvert of the driveway coming in here, and then an outlet coming out here. And I'll give you an overview, and then the applicant is here tonight and they can continue, but on the last page of the submitted documents with the application, they propose to remove they've constructed a stone wall that ran the length of the property line. And so it was obviously within that wetland setback, as well as in this corner within the wetland itself. So they are proposing to remove by hand, it's a dry laid stone wall, remove all those stones 25 feet to the south, so that it is 25 feet from the wetland line. And then in this back area, they would seed with a native seed mix and plant 5 shrubs. We call out Ilex verticulata. And then in the front wetland, they would remove the excessive field stones, the boulders and rocks that have been deposited along the kind of the preferential flow path of the watercourse, and reseed those areas with wetland seed mix. The amount of rocks within the wetland amounted to filling, whereas before they were kind of some randomly placed boulders. It was now more than that. So then lastly, they are proposing to keep their newly shaped driveway. The driveway previously kind of had this shape, and it was expanded to have this shape, and they would like to keep that. That is adjacent to the intermittent watercourse that is just off-site and culverted under the driveway that feeds the front wetland. So that's my description of their proposed corrective action application, which again is being received tonight. So you have to wait a minimum of 14 days to make any decision. But that's it in the nutshell.
You say Mr. Lusardo is here?
I believe so.
There he is.
Hi.
Hello, Mr. Lusardo. Welcome back.
Hello, hope you like what I presented you. I think it's a fair plan. And I'm willing to do anything it takes just to get this to go away.
Did the staff summary pretty much dovetail with?
That's my man right there.
Okay, terrific. Good. Okay. Well, I don't know that we're in a position to make a decision on this, Alexis, although
Correct.
We can't, we just have to receive it and ask questions.
yeah,
And maybe help the applicants be prepared for the decision by giving them suggestions that might, make the decision easier.
I walked the property with Alexis and we talked about what should be done. I think it's fair that I do this all by hand, getting it done in a fast manner. I think it's fair.
well, in my view, it's pretty open and shut in terms of, I mean, going back to what we looked at the last time we met on this issue. I don't personally feel the need for any further documentation. I wonder the rest of the commissioners, how they feel. My inclination would be to go as quickly as possible towards a decision on this. But we would not be able to do it tonight, Alexis, you think?
No, you cannot. It's just the receipt of the application. So state statute requires you wait a minimum of 14 days.
Okay.
So maybe, so Mr. Lusardo, can we just make sure that I understand? So this line here that says new location would be the location of a new stone wall.
Yes, just dry outside that 25-foot mark.
Okay, and then the area on the north side of the wall, how do you, I know that you say to add 5 shrubs in this
Yes, and we're
location where it's closest to the wetland. How
most of
would
this,
this be maintained and as part of your proposal?
when I was caught for the fine here, when you came out, I had just stacked that stone recently. So all the underbrush had already still been underneath the stone by the time I, you know, and it's still there. I mean, there's not much damage that's there. So
So is it literally just a wall that is gonna get moved, that nothing happened in between the rear,
I bought
where
some
the wall is
stone
now
and
versus where it's going to be?
I bought some stone. I stacked it in the wrong area. We realized that day, and we're gonna move it by hand again, outside of the setback.
What is the wetland seed and 5 plants replacing?
Well-
What is there now?
Well, there's just debris of the old leaf debris there, and just whatever undergrowth that's been growing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll show you some photos from those visits.
Oh, yeah, those are provided.
All right, so are these? Can you see am I sharing?
Yeah.
Successfully?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet? Okay, hold on a
Not
second.
yet.
Hold on. I think I can do this. How's that?
Right, that's what it was.
You got a
Okay.
lot more energy than I do, I'll say that much. You just
So-
throw a few rocks around. Jeez.
Yeah.
So this is, let me just get my bearings here. Hold on one second.
That's the other end.
This is in the northeastern corner of the property. So the wetland is just off the page.
Right,
And so the property line in this location is a little bit further down, if I remember right. You're not quite on your property line. And this was some of the walls that are being constructed. So above the walls, you clearly have kind of your residential activities, and then below is kind of a mix of manicuredness, just to answer your question, Steve. So again, this is in the center of the property, along the rear property line. On the other side is the wetland itself. In the center of the property, the wetland line, which is closely concurrent with the edge of the standing water that you can see in the photograph. The property line is about 25 feet from the wetland. So in the center, the area, which is kind of I wouldn't call it lawn, but it's definitely maintained. You can see there's kind of a lack of understory vegetation other than maybe right along the wall. Some forsythia and whatnot. But this area is technically outside of that 25-foot restoration area that was required in the 2014 corrective action permit. This is the northwestern corner. So this is the corner of the property that contains wetlands. That's the property corner. Obviously, this is an area of inundation, and this is the wall on the rear and side property lines. That's not a very good
So Alexis, there was no like regrading, there was no taking down of trees or anything like that.
Correct. So there was no regrading. It was mostly kind of the use of the buffer to store material. The resident is an active gardener, and so there were just a lot of lot of use, a lot of kind of forsythia getting planted, sorry. Pots, ornamental grasses, bare areas, more pots, porta potty, machinery, all within the buffer area. So that's why I was just trying to clarify that the idea of the buffer originally was kind of a transition between kind of your active residential use and the native wetland. And so without just kind of figuring out the how you envision the use of that property and get it back to more of a buffer, I guess, is my question.
So the applicant has been, it seems to me, assiduous in coming up with a restoration plan. Timing being what it is, perhaps we could look at a resolution fairly soon. Maybe draw up a resolution memorandum and let us get this corrected. Is that reasonable?
At the next meeting, correct? Mr. Chairman.
Yes. I think that's what the timing, it requires us to not do it today. And the soonest we could do it would be the next meeting. But then assuming that we are all in sync on the resolution, then we could resolve it at that time.
Hold on, there's three areas under consideration here. There's the rear, which we just discussed. There's the recess area in the front, which again, I'm gonna assume there was no vegetation removed, there was no regrading. It was just a bunch of extra rocks went in there that wasn't in the approved plan. Is that relatively accurate?
That is correct. It was just the deposition of a lot of rounded stone.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's area number 2. And we're talking about getting rid of those and reseeding wherever the undergrowth may have been killed off or whatever by the rocks. And then number 3, though, is the driveway. So I'm having a hard time, based on page 4 of that scan, understanding how close the driveway is to the water course.
Okay, let me get out a work on a aerial photograph for you real quick.
And is the topography relatively flat there? As in, where is surface water going?
Right, I'll show you. Am I sharing? No, I'm not seeing. Hold on. Okay, so this is what I was sharing. So this is these are aerial photos from April 2019. The yellow line is the water course. Right now, there is also a stone wall that's been installed along the side property line. This is the driveway in its current configuration. This is kind of when it was being widened, I think. And so from the point where the yellow line ends, the water course is actually piped in a culvert that goes under the driveway and then discharges here to that front wetland. And so can't really make it out in this aerial photograph, but it's approximately here. And then there is a head wall where the stream enters the culvert approximately in this location. It is downhill from the driveway work. And then it discharges on the other side of the driveway here. And actually in the 2019 aerial photo, you can start to see the amount of stones and rocks that have been added to the front wetland area.
Whoa, that looks like a Colorado mountain stream kind of there. So all of those rocks were added since, I mean, they look fantastic, but they're all added after the
Well,
approved.
Let's not forget, guys, there's no leaves on the trees here and there's no underbrush that's visible. But that only looks like that during the months that there's no leaves on the trees. All the rest of the season, it's filled with all vegetation that we planted in it to pass what I did the last time I was in the seat. So,
So
you know,
were all those rocks in the approved plan last time or not, is what I'm asking.
we used some of the rocks to decorate, yes, but we channeled it in a way, in the way that the flow would correctly work, because there's only an 8-inch outlet in this area and it floods over the driveway if it's not maintained. Now, the guy next door somehow has a pipe running through his yard, no brook, but I couldn't get that 7 years ago, is what I needed, what I really wanted to do. So, you know, I don't know how one guy gets it. Anyway, what happens is, let's say a turtle gets caught inside the pipe like it did. Okay, I retrieved it. His barb got stuck in the pipe, but he was the whole backup reason why we flooded. You know what I mean? So we use the area to channel the water so it doesn't actually all hit the pipe first. It has some place to go within itself. That's all. And it works.
Okay, so back to that's area 2. So back to area 3, the driveway. What material is it? The driveway?
It's just asphalt.
Asphalt. Impermeable. Impervious.
Okay, yes, but
Okay.
and I do want to say something else, guys. Let's go back to the photos 7 years ago into the driveway where you said I built the stone wall. The stone wall clearly is there when I bought this home way back in the day.
Yeah, I don't
So,
think anybody's objecting to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
No,
not part of
Yeah.
the violation.
Just the,
but the driveway has changed in a way, and I don't remember when it was done exactly. Could have been 3-5 years ago, somewhere after the first violation. Yeah, maybe the driveway was done in a way, but it can't be that far off to where it was, is what I'm saying. There used to be a boat in the corner of this lot. So if anything, I've taken more asphalt out of this house than added. If you look at the photos of this, the gentleman that I bought this house from had like a 40-foot boat, and somewhere in the driveway, the markings are still on it. And I cut that to make more grass in my yard, up in the back left by the garage here,
here,
right where your marker is, up there, up to the back there, Alexis, up the hill there. Yeah,
and so what we have is a condition that's kind of more like this. And so Steve,
Right.
this is the kind of the edge of the water course is sketched here. Again, this portion all the way across here is culverted
Yeah.
to the wetland.
Okay.
So the element of the driveway that's being added is being added on top of the pipe, basically.
Yeah,
That
nothing
was
was
added,
taken in.
correct?
And really, you know, all we're looking for is to see if it would have an effect on, you know, the water course and how surface water moves and whatever. So I'll quit asking questions now, but I will say that in order for me personally to be comfortable, you know, talking about this further, I'm afraid I'd need maybe some professional drawings of, you know, before and after and whatever, because I'm not sure what we're seeing here quite
do have-
captures.
we do have some photos of the driveway when the house was first purchased in 2005. So that I can show you the driveway maybe at the next meeting, or I could send it to Alexa.
Yeah, no, I think what I'm getting at is actual drawings by, you know, a landscape architect or somebody who can capture the full. Sorry.
Steve, are you, do you have any concerns with the driveway, or is it more the remediation work in the front wetland and along the back wetland?
I mean, I think all three need to be addressed. The driveway, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I don't know which way it slopes, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So I think I just need more information in order to, you know, be confident that we're giving the right feedback.
Okay.
Anyone else have a comment on Granite Drive? Okay, hearing none. We can move on, can we not, Alexis?
Yes. So the starters, I can meet with you tomorrow or early next week. What it means that was said.
Yes.
All right.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Lusardo. All right, moving on to what on my agenda says is number 4, unless we're already on it. We're at Princess Pine again, are we not?
Correct.
Okay, S21 569.
Okay, so
No,
this
this is
is
actually, this is S21 573.
573. Thank you.
Okay, see, I don't have,
Yeah, sorry about that.
You gotta take a screenshot of this stuff.
yeah.
I was wondering how you had that, Stephen.
Yeah, well, you know, I've got the 3 monitors and I did my little screenshot and then I moved it off to
Yeah.
the side because Alexis keeps taking it away from us.
Sorry.
So I got the number wrong. It's 573. Is that correct, Alexis?
Correct. S21 573. Corrective action application for 40 Princess Pine Road.
Okay.
And so what this plan shows is I'd have to say some of the trees that were most recently removed, and then a proposed planting plan in the area directly adjacent to the wetlands. So again, the wetland line is the WL line right along the rear property line. 100-foot upland review area is the blue line, and the still, yep, is still here. If you want to
Yes.
describe the plan. But if I recall, the proposed plan is pretty much the same as the mitigation plan that was submitted for the pool, correct?
Correct.
Since we're all pretty familiar with this, do you mind if I pick up with my notes from the previous conversation? Or Mr. Tate, do you want to throw anything out there first, or should we just
No,
again,
you know,
this-
in
This
interest
is
of
just the
time.
corrective
just ask me
action, not the
questions.
pool.
just the corrective action? Okay, I'm sorry.
And in interest of time, I'm here to help you any way you need information.
Okay, so I was gonna clarify just for everybody that there were no wood chips noted in the wetland. They were only in the upland review area.
Correct.
Okay. I would say in that regard that it seems like there's a relatively low slope back there. You know, we look at the upland review area only so much as it may affect the wetland itself. I don't see a major impact to the wood chips in the upland review area, though. I can't speak for all commissioners, but that's not a big, huge issue to me, although it may be for others. The trees are a bigger issue. And even though, we're looking at a plan from straight up above, looking down, like you said, the canopy of the coniferous trees may have to play farther off this property, not on this wetland that we can't even see, for example. And then, of course, there's the oak trees, which we understand that the property owner did not remove, but they were removed regardless. And so I'm just wondering if I'm throwing this out there as maybe we could do a little bit, be a little more aggressive in the planting plan with trees that would contribute a little bit more, coverage to try to get back at least some of what we have lost for whatever reason. So those are only my thoughts that I've written down.
Sure. We can add, we can add some red maples back there, which would be a certainly a good deciduous tree for the wetland area. And we can put them, I would put them back in that corner, that southeast corner where the oaks were lost. And that would help. Sure, we'll plant 3 of those back there for you. You lost 2, we'll give you 3. How's that?
That sounds like a good deal.
Well, talk to us in 50 years, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they grow very quickly. You'll be happy with those, I think.
Mr. Tate, can you remind me? I don't have
Sure.
it written down. I'm sure you've said how many trees you have proposed and what kinds they are. And I know you're willing to put
Yeah.
more, and I appreciate that.
Right here on the list. Can you make that larger, Alexa? Alexis, I'm sorry. The wetland plant schedule. There's 34, I think, that we total planting, and they're Amelanchier, which is a tall shrub. Do you know plants, Jennifer? This is about
Somewhat. Yeah.
Okay. So
That's okay.
I'm sure I hate to say that because when some people I talk about a Latin name and they go crazy, right? So they feel like I'm not talking directly. So anyway, you'll see that most of these plants are wetland, they're native plants that would be planted on the edge or in I would say a low water condition of a wetland area. So, we have a good mix of seasonal, and I call them food source plants because we have, the winterberry, we have the red twig dogwood, summer sweet. So if you know plants, you will not recognize the list.
Yep.
And then
And
Norway
honestly-
spruce, is that more for screening?
What's that?
The Norway spruce, that would be more for screening?
Yeah, that's on the side, and I don't think that's really germane to our whole conversation here. It's a great plant and everything, but I don't think it's the reason you need the Norway spruce is that for bird habitat, they're great shelter plants, and you don't have it there. So you need that as a buffer, the buffer barrier. So that's your shelter plant for your food source.
Would you consider for the 4 that are in the 3 or 4 in the upland review area, having some sort of native evergreen?
You mean like a hemlock or something like that?
Yeah, anything native?
Well,
Just
sure, we can do that.
following.
It's just that I specify. Sure, why? Yeah, sure, we can do it. We can change it out to a hemlock. The only reason I put those because they do well in the there's a low light condition there, so a lower light condition, and especially with the new maples that we're planting, it'll probably be fairly low light. So, but yeah, sure, we'll put hemlocks in there instead. No problem. That's native.
Anything other than hemlock, Jim?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I just have to say that's my least favorite evergreen.
Okay, well, there's the client.
I'm
There's
sorry.
the client speaking. So we'll come up with our. Listen, we're not going to be planting arborvitae, just so you know. Okay,
Good. That's great.
just so you know. So we'll come up with something that's native that will work there. But Norway spruce, blue spruce, white spruce. I like white spruce. We could put some firs in there. There's some Fraser firs or something like that. The firs would be good. The Douglas fir, Fraser fir, they would work. So we can do that. They like a little more sun, but we'll make them work. How's that? Susan? How's my client speaking?
Well, that's better.
Okay, okay.
I'm not a big fan of hemlocks either, by the way. But one more question I maybe should have thrown in there to springboard off of Jen's comment would be like ground cover. Is that on the plan? And like, I mean, what you're proposing is far enough apart that ground cover would, in theory, be a good idea, right?
Tim, do you
Well-
have the pictures of the photographs looking down that I sent you that
Yeah, we
shows what was
received the
grass and
photo-
what was,
Yeah.
not
We sent some
grass?
photographs in earlier about the condition that's there. The reality is, if there is a ground cover there now, I don't think as a wetland commission or conservation, you don't want me in there disturbing any. I think we learned our lesson here. We're not going in anywhere near this area if we don't have to touch anything on the ground plane. And what's coming back is that the native aggressive poison ivy. We do have a little bit of bittersweet, but there is some ground. There's no ferns or anything like that going on right now, but there'll be a native kind of ground cover that comes into play, and small shrubs. More than likely, we'll have the small shrub growth come in, and that we just leave alone. It's seeded by the birds and everything else.
All right,
So-
well, I'll
so you're-
defer to Alexis on that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
your plan would be to have the shrubs and then the area around them. Are you proposing that would be just kind of left naturally, or are you gonna have?
Yeah.
shrub-
No, left.
Mulch around the base of the shrubs, or?
No, we would just plant the shrubs and leave them alone. That's what it's all about. The least disturbance, the better. We're just going to dig a hole, put the plant in, make sure it lives for a year, and we're good to go.
I have a question. So as I understand, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. As I understand it, the two very significant tree removals were two, for lack of a better description, mighty oaks.
Right. Correct.
One of them had a diameter at the base of at least 36, maybe 40 inches.
Well, maybe, but more like 32 to 36, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Yeah. They're big
Okay.
trees, beautiful trees.
They
They must have been.
magnificent trees.
Right.
And oaks are actually fruiting trees, and they provide acorns, which are a significant source of sustenance for wildlife, in particular, turkeys, raccoons, and other birds, and I guess black bears and squirrels and stuff like that. I'm just wondering, in terms of replacing what was lost,
Right.
is there some comparison that can be made as to how much fruiting and consumable wildlife support is going to be given to replace the two very, very large mature oaks?
Well,
I
it sounds by your inquiry that an oak tree might be better to plant. The only issue I have with the oaks is that they're so slow to get to any kind of fruiting maturity, even if you plant large ones. So that in terms of value or replacement value, that's why the red maple is usually selected. But that's okay. We can plant a small oak tree and let it go. Yes, I don't see, there are different, there's nothing like acorns. They attract a certain habitat. They're certain habitat value. They attract certain small mammals, obviously. And so, they have a different function, and the acorn is great. I mean, but I don't know if that actual tree I think it might have been a swamp white oak, which might have been a swamp oak or black oak, what we call it.
Swamp white oak was what the arborist told
Okay,
me.
swamp white oak. Well, very super slow growing. But I'm open. To me, if somebody thinks we should replace it in kind of thing, great, we'll do that. But we are limited to the availability of white oak in anything that's larger than probably, I would say, maybe a 1-inch caliper, where I can plant a much larger red maple for you, twice as big. And But I don't know if that's, and the function that we're trying to solve here, I didn't think was so much the replacement of food sources as it was maybe the shading characteristic. So a red maple would certainly have much better shading characteristic because I can plant a little bigger, it'll grow much faster, that kind of thing. You're going to be forever waiting, you know, we're going to be 50, I would say 50 years before we get any close. I mean, that loss of those trees was huge. Yes, absolutely. I'm the first guy to admit it, but you know, it wasn't my client's problem, you know, in a way. I mean, it is a problem now, but it wasn't their responsibility. So, but yeah, it was a loss. So you just have to direct me. I'm willing to do what you like.
And I don't know enough to know what I like. I just am pointing out that you know, the oaks that were removed served multiple functions for the wetlands and watercourse, and one obviously was to support wildlife.
Here's a solution. I'll do both. Okay, I'll do both for you. We'll plant both. We'll do some small oak trees and we'll give you some red maples. That way we'll cover both bases. We'll make it great. Okay, how's that?
Come back in 75 years and
yeah, you and I will
just like
think in our afterlife.
1999. Yeah. Yes,
you'll be here far after I am, probably. But
I don't think so, but
okay.
We'll see.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other commissioners have response or questions to the renovation plans that we've been looking at? It seems to me that given the situation that was there, that this is a good plan and well thought through. I guess I would say don't plant too many red maples next to the pool. Other than that.
Noted.
All right. Alexis, do we need to take further steps on this?
No, you can't. So it is the receipt of an application. So again, you have to wait a minimum of 14 days before you make a decision. So it sounds like there may be some tweaking of the landscape plan, and it sounds like if the tweaks are similar to what was discussed tonight, that if the applicant can get a revision to me ASAP, and then I could have a draft resolution for the agency to consider at your next meeting.
Great.
Will do.
Okay.
Thank you, commissioners.
I don't have.
Okay. Oh,
My
let me share.
older. Huh?
So then the next item on the agenda is
Yes, thank you. What?
Is discussion and or decision. And you have two items under that. Number S21-569, which is for 40 Princess Pine Road, for the installation of an in-ground pool and associated walls. And I guess staff at this point would recommend maybe tabling that discussion until you have figured out the corrective action, but it is certainly up to you. And then the second item under discussion decision will be S21-570 for 40 Fullen Road.
Well, if I could just tell the commissioners that we have been trying to do whatever we can to move this along. Obviously, we're getting long in weeks now. So if there's anything we can do to move this along, we'd appreciate it.
Well,
and I can just to clarify, the planting plan in the pool application, you would assuming that you have an approved corrective action plan, that the proposed planting plan is shown currently on the pool plan, you would not be proposing. So you're not doubling.
You would be supplementing. We are supplementing it. We would be adding more, but it would not. We would be adding more, but we would not be deleting anything off the original plan.
Okay.
It would only be an addition, not any change. It would be an addition only, for clarification purposes.
also, Mr. Tate, it's not strictly your bailiwick, but we do need to see something definitive about the septic situation.
Yes, as I explained, we have that scheduled. I gave a letter to Alexis about its scheduling. It's for the 25th, I believe. And we'll have all that information to you. So by the next meeting, you will be prepared with all that corrective action on any of the health situation. Don't see any issue there. But yes, we understand that. And
Okay.
obviously the commission could always approve. I mean, I don't know how your commission works, but a commission typically can approve with the condition of, as a condition of approval. So if they, for any reason, there was a problem with the health, then the application would be null and void, obviously. So
Usually they try to incorporate, if there is any component of this on-site septic system or any component of a required reserve system that would be required because of the activity proposed, they would want to know that, and then they would incorporate that into their approval. Not as a condition, but as an additional regulated activity.
Yeah, we would need to talk about that some more, because it's kind of like approve it now and we'll do the stuff we need to do later conditionally. Well, and let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll deal with that next time around.
okay,
Thank you very much for your patience, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you.
And Mr. Tate. And, we will
Thanks,
move this thing through as fast as
Thank you.
nature and bureaucracy allows us.
thank you. We're here to do what we can for you. Thank you.
Okay, Alexis, what's next on the agenda?
It's application S21-570 40 Fullen Road.
And we're waiting for an expert report.
Correct. So you had requested that that there be a peer review of the wetland impacts, in particular the assessment of the existing wetland and the various assessments made by the applicant regarding those impacts and well, not really its impacts, its existing functions and values, the needs to either avoid or not avoid the proposed direct impacts, and then the adequacy of the proposed mitigation, which is wetland creation. And so I have retained, well, almost retained. Getting a contract through the city is very slow, but I have retained a professional wetland scientist who is working on it. So he doesn't quite have a signed purchase order. He will any moment, and he is working on his assessment. The applicant provided, it's Ed Pollock, who is out of West Hartford, provided him with all the application materials. He is going out to the site. He either went out today or he's going to be out on Wednesday, and then we'll be turning around and providing his report. So that's really all that I have, which is not much. Unfortunately.
How long do you think it'll take him to do what he is doing?
He was trying, it's my understanding that it was his goal to have everything, a written report in to me before the July 4th holiday. So I would like him to do that. He is very aware that it's a pending application and that all parties are interested in moving it forward. So he's.
Yeah, I just want to assure the applicant that we're not slowing this down. We would like this to get properly dealt with as quickly as possible.
Right. And
but until we have that report, I don't think there's any sense in going over old ground on Fullen Road.
I agree.
I mean, my own sense is that, once that report comes in and we've had a chance to look at it, I would like to go there. I mean, even if it's within the hour, and have a look, but we'll see.
Okay. Yeah. And I would encourage, again, to go out and have a look at the site, wear tick repellent, But certainly
Right.
after you receive this report, but before the public hearing closes.
Right.
And you haven't scheduled the public hearing, so you have
Okay.
time to do that.
Okay. Anybody else have anything on Fulham Road that they want to toss in here?
Just a real quick question. When we visit the property, how do we gain access? I tried and failed
Okay.
recently.
I will send you those directions again. Basically, you're going to go through 593 Westport Avenue, which is the entrance to the Pepperidge Farm Research and Development Office. So it's right before the apartments at 595. If you're headed towards Wetland, not Wetland, Westport, if you pass the apartments on the left, which are called, I think 595 Westport, you've gone too far. So just before them, there's kind of a office-like building that is Pepperidge Farms Research Building. It's like a sidewinder, so the short end
Okay.
faces Westport Ave.
I'll
Go
find it.
down that entranceway. There's a like a traffic gate, a bar, but the gate is always open as far as I can tell. And you'll pass a parking lot on your left, keep going, and you'll see the remnants of the parking lot that's shown on the plans.
Okay, thank you.
It is very overgrown.
Okay. Any further comments from commissioners? Anything, questions or? All right, I think we can move on to approval of minutes
Okay.
from June 8th. They were lengthy, but I did not have any concerns with them other than the fact that they did remind me of some things that we had said that we cared about, and that it was good to be refreshed and see it, especially on Princess Pine. Anyone have any comments about the minutes?
So when I was reading the names of the commissioners present, I believe Halowinko and Marin were not included in the copy that I saw. But to my recollection,
Farah was there. I don't think Farah was there at the last meeting.
she introduced a motion at the last
Yeah.
meeting.
Oh, you're right.
Who's there?
Right. That's right.
Yep. And I know Ed was there too. So yes, they were both.
And I seconded it.
Yeah. She's really good. Yes, I will make that correction. Good call. Thank you.
Nothing else.
Okay. Anyone care to move to approve the minutes?
I move to approve those minutes as amended.
Don't all the seconders step up at once? I second it, although I wasn't there for some of it. Moved and seconded. Discussion on the minutes, none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, opposed, that the minutes are approved. Public comments, do we have anybody on the line, Alexis?
We do not.
Okay,
We have one attendee, but he's from the hour. Hello.
okay. Comments of staff?
So I just wanted to talk scheduling. Your next meeting is on July 13th.
July what, 13th?
July 13th. And so if you know in advance that you won't be here, just let me know. And then the meeting after that is scheduled for July 27th. Then you have a meeting on August 10th, but currently you do not have a meeting scheduled for August 24th. On July 27th, I will not be here. So I wanted to give you a heads up. I will not be anywhere with cellular service or Wi-Fi, or there's like no opportunity for any digital connection.
Good for you, te absolvo.
So I have pre-warned some of the applicants, though not all of them, that you may or may not be holding a meeting on the 27th. And so it really is up to you. If you can certainly have a meeting without me. Normally I have a there is a land use technician, Amelia, who is starting to do some conservation work, but she has never been to a meeting yet. In the past, I had left, some of you may remember Brenda, but I don't really have a Brenda yet that's maybe prepared to really fill in. But that said, that doesn't mean that you can't have a meeting. And I would just have someone in the background getting the Zoom meeting started, but you wouldn't have any staff. So it's up to you. Part of me says maybe, and Mr. Levin, if you're talking, you're muted. So couldn't tell if you were talking to yourself or giving valuable insight, but so so that was the update. And then you don't have a meeting scheduled for August 24th, and I didn't know if I think it was referred to in the meeting minutes that potentially maybe that could be used to fill in for a Conservation Commission only meeting, or potentially if there is urgent business that gets pushed back, if you don't meet your second meeting of July, that you could attend to that. But the focus would be on conservation. So I'll send out
we're gonna have to
email.
be Zoom all the time, right? The whole thing.
Mhm.
July and
Right.
August is all Zoom,
Yes,
right?
at this point. Yep. Yes. I have not yet received information from the city administration regarding what kind of vision they have for the hybrid meetings that they had hinted at. City Hall is open, so we can come in. We could, if everyone had, I think that there is interest in having these faces and having a virtual meeting available. So I think the city is working on having some kind of portable device that could sit in front of each person if you were to come back to City Hall, but that hasn't been ironed out yet. As soon as I know something, I'll update you.
Okay,
People feel about this. I've gotten really accustomed to the virtual. I
Yeah,
mean, I can show up with like shoving food in my mouth, and it's a
Right.
little uncouth, but nobody has to smell it at least.
amen.
So I mean, I like seeing you guys in person. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen Jennifer in person. I don't know that I've
Or
ever seen
Farrah.
John in person either, actually, John Levin.
Yeah,
Anyway, so maybe it'd be
Because-
good just to do it for that reason, that we
Right.
actually see each other in person once in a while. But
but virtual definitely has it's great. I don't know how many times, we'll have during the old style meetings, there'd be a plan review, and two commissioners are looking at a plan saying, but this here, and nobody else knows what they're pointing to. And it's very confusing for other commissioners, and including any audience members. And this is really nice as far as the public, although we don't have any tonight, but people we're all looking at the same shared screen. So a lot of it's really nice.
So I have not attended meetings as a commissioner only as in the Zoom format, and I'm
Right.
wondering, other than our ability to smell things, is there any recognizable advantage to having in-person meetings that is realized by in-person meetings and not available in Zoom? Because I clearly there are many advantages to Zoom.
I think you lose some of the physical cues and body language to a certain degree virtually. Exactly. Thank you. I don't know.
that
Yeah.
part is certainly the case, but it's also the case that I have a two-level magnifying glass that I use for the plot plans and for the documentation upon which we're supposed to make decisions. And what I liked before was that a guy would stand up and put a colored one up on an easel. And if I asked him to point to something, he would not have to go and find the cursor and go all the way around on that. And if I was 50 years younger, I probably would not care so much about that. But I really think it's a little more informative, and it makes my vote a little more useful. That's my opinion. I was going to abstain until you said the thing about smelling, and then I decided I'd weigh in. Okay.
I think we need to have Steve come over to your house and install multiple monitors and have,
Yeah, really.
a big array.
Walls.
Actually,
left, you know.
I have a projector that I'm not using. I could set up a projector on the wall and, yeah. Actually,
With a-
here's a
Yeah,
thought. Well, sorry.
No, I was going to call for comments of commissioners and then go, oh, but wait a minute, we already heard from Steve. Right.
I talked a lot tonight. Sorry about that. But if I could throw one other thing out, if we're going to have an August meeting just for Conservation Commission, not Inland Wetland Agency, maybe that'd be a nice one to have in person. And have
Right.
it be sort of a, more of a social thing than, so we
Yeah,
could
I
actually
do
see each other
think-
in person. And I would promise to eat before I come.
Yeah, I think those kind of conversations are some ways easier in person, kind of that more kind of kicking ideas around potentially. All right.
Okay. Anybody
So,
else?
But no one the end of August sounds like might work for at least the four of you.
Yeah, works for me.
And as far as July 24th or whatever date it was, yeah, I think we'll defer to your judgment. If we can get out of it, let's do that. And if somebody's really kicking and screaming, then we'll try to do it without you.
Okay, well, we will see how much we can get through at the next meeting. I think we're pretty teed up pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. And it's probable that nothing is going to really materialize in the next couple of weeks in terms of new applications. It would be unusual.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Okay, any further comments from commissioners? None. Then the only thing left is item, well, I don't have an agenda, so I don't know what item it is, but it might have been item 9. And if it was, it would be a titled adjournment. So does anybody have anything to say about that?
So moved.
Seconded. All in favor? Aye.
All right.
See you next time, guys. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.